Hi everyone, welcome to Miss Adams Teaches Macbeth. This video is going to focus on the AQA English Literature GCSE exam, and we're going to be talking about my predictions for 2023. Caveat, I do not have a crystal ball, but I will take you through what has come up over the last few years and therefore just give you a little bit of a steer on what you can kind of rule out and what perhaps is a likely subject for your revision. So let's get started. Okay, so let's have a little look at the exam papers over the last few years, just to kind of give us a bit of a steer. So we've had the concept of Macbeth's fears coming up after Act 3, Scene 1, a nice one on the relationship between Macbeth and Lady Macbeth. That's also been used as a sample. Which is obviously Scene 2, the big sleepwalking scene, and a question on whether or not Lady Macbeth changes, like a to what extent question. Macbeth is violent after the wonderful Act 1, Scene 2. What a gorgeous question that one was. We also have Act 1, Scene 3 with Macbeth and Banquo's attitude to the witches being explored. And then the first exam in the series, 2017, was on ambition after Lady Macbeth's soliloquy in Act 1, Scene 5. So what are some of the things we're picking up here? Because you only have a choice of one, because you only have one question, you don't get a choice. We don't have a huge kind of backlog of questions that have already been set. But what I would notice is that there's been nothing from Act 4. And obviously in Act 4, you have got Macduff's response to his family being killed. So a question on Macduff could come up, and just his general presentation, and that would center around that moment. You also have that really, really weird scene where Malcolm tests Macduff, which would be awful if it came up because it's just so weird, but that could spark maybe some ideas about kingship, because all of that scene is about him saying, what if I'm a dreadful king, or I'm gonna be a dreadful king, what do you think of that? Only to say kidding. So that's an interesting one to look at. Now, Act 5 hasn't come up other than the Lady Macbeth bit, and obviously we've got all of the climactic moments, all of the kind of rounding up of the tragedy with Macbeth. So, for example, you could get something from, say, Act 5, Scene 3 or Act 5, Scene 5, you know, the big Macbeth moments, and then a question on how he changes, because that's not come up so far. I don't think necessarily you're going to get a Lady Macbeth, because she's come up in 2020 and then again in the sort of relationship, but there's not been a massive amount of kind of theme-based questions. So things like power, things like guilt are definitely worth having a little look at. This one is interesting because it's Macbeth and Banquo's attitude to the witches, so it's more about the way they respond than it is about the witches. So it wouldn't be a mad idea just to kind of recap the supernatural as well. I've got a really good video on the supernatural, well, the function of the witches, so do have a little look at that. Obviously, predictions aren't really predictions, because how on earth do we really know? But it's worth looking at what has recently come up, because then at least, you know, we can focus your revision a little bit more and give you a steer. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope the exams go well. Happy revising.